Hey Fae folk, welcome back. So for today's video, I wanted to do a top 10 for Monster High, and I hear you saying rain. Haven't you already done that for all three Monster High generations? Yes, but this time we're going to be doing a top 10 video for Monster High lines, so not taking a look at the individual dolls, but like the lines as a whole. And I'm also doing this across all generations of Monster High. I just thought it would be interesting to see. First of all, I think that like the concept of like doing the lines in general was a request from one of you guys. So thank you to whoever suggested that I do that. But I did want to include all three generations just because I do feel like I and other people, when we rank Monster High in any capacity, tend to do it like very segmented where like, okay, these are the G1 dolls that I'm talking about. These are the G3 dolls. Again, like I said, I'm obviously extremely guilty of this as well. So I thought it would be very interesting to go ahead and rank all of them collectively, like not looking at Gen 3 and Gen 1 as like separate, but just different versions of Monster High and really just going across the entire spectrum and saying what I think are the top 10 lines that Monster High has ever produced. So that's what we're going to be doing today. As per usual, these are just my thoughts and opinions. You're obviously free to disagree because we're different humans who think in different ways. Just if you do disagree, please be polite about it. It's just dolls. It's not like that serious. But yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the ranking. So obviously, as per usual, we are going to be going from number 10 up and working our way to like what I think is the best Monster High line of all time. So coming in 10th place from Gen 1 of Monster High is the Swim Class line, which I feel like might be a little bit shocking. I say very, very frequently on this channel that I don't really do pajama dolls, and swim dolls are kind of iffy for me. This is one of those lines that I really just think knocked it out of the park. And I do think that it is less iconic than like Gloom Beach or, shoot, what was the other one from Gen 1 that was like Skull Shores? That was the other one. I do think that the swim class line is like less iconic. Maybe it doesn't come to mind as much than those lines, but I really, really think that it was an excellent line. I can't say that I like every single doll because like I'm picky, y'all know this. I don't like every single doll, but I think they all had very interesting elements and very interesting design. It does help that there's a lot of transparent plastic used in this line, and I love transparent plastic. I don't know why. It just like really scratches an itch for me. But I just think that these were really fun. And I think the designs were really impressive within the constraints of a swimsuit line. Because like there's usually only so much wiggle room, right? Like you're not going to put a doll in a swim line in like a suit or a ball gown. So I do feel like there is a little bit more constraint with a swim line. And I feel like the designers did a really, really good job of still making these dolls interesting and portray the characters' personalities very well. So even though it's not what I typically go for, I do think it deserved to be on the list today. Coming in at number 9, we have the original lineup, the core release that was like the first launch that Monster High ever had. How could I not include this on the list? I mean, it's literally the line that started it all. So I feel like there's just a huge amount of history and like it's just such an iconic line to me. But beyond that, I also do think that for a first release, these designs were extremely strong. I feel like it's very normal to see brands who like kind of take a second to find their footing and like maybe their first couple of releases are good, but they're not great. And then like they really get there and they really improve and they really get better. And I do think that Gen 1 did that as well. But I feel like it's very impressive that this first line was such a good one. Like I really do feel like the designs are so strong and so interesting. There's a lot of differences in the design. We have like some characters wearing pants, some characters wearing jumpsuits or shorts or skirts. Like it's not very cookie cutter. They all are very unique and very interesting. And yeah, I can't imagine making this list without putting this one on. It is a little bit lower just because I do think that a lot of why I wanted it on the list was because it is such an iconic line and like literally the start of it all, as I said. But I do think there are other ones that are a little bit better, but I had to give props to where it all began. 8th place has a similar vibe because it is another core line from Gen 1. This is the Wave 4 line, and I just really think this was a solid one, with the exception of Jackson, who I'm not like the hugest fan of, both in the show and doll-wise. It's just kind of, he's not really for me. I love the other 3 dolls. I actually have the other 3 dolls, which, hold on, I'm looking at my shelf now. Is that the most core dolls I have from any line? I think it is. So there you have it. That in and of itself. But I do just, again, I think these are really, really fun. This was definitely further into Monster High's run. Obviously, it's wave 4 of like core releases. And I really just think you can see the improvement that they've made. And the designs are still so strong, so unique, so interesting. Like Venus with the side shave, Rochelle with the wings and that beautiful, slightly holographic skirt, Rebecca with the intense steampunk design. Like they're all just so amazing. I know I'm excluding Jackson again, but like the line, even with him, I think is still so good, so strong. It was actually one of the first lines that I thought of when I was like brainstorming for this video. So I think they earned their spot. Coming in at 7th place is another absolutely iconic Gen 1 line. And I honestly think a lot of people would rate this higher, but like for me personally, this is where it's going. It's Dawn of the Dance, which I think is another extremely, extremely strong line. I do think this one is just really good. And again, this was another one that was quite early on in Gen 1. Like this wasn't towards the end or anything. This was like a pretty fresh design. And I just think they're absolutely amazing. I have the Claudine. I would love to get the Laguna someday. She's like a doll that keeps me up at night sometimes thinking about her. I think she's absolutely beautiful. Realistically speaking, those are the only two dolls that I would want to personally own. But even outside of what I would be willing to spend my money on, I will say this is one of my favorite Ghoulie designs that we have ever gotten from Monster High. And that means a lot coming from me because I'm not really a Ghoulie fan. I think the Dracula is cute. The Frankie's kind of mid to me, but like, that's Frankie. Same thing with like the Deuce. I'm not 100% sold on him, but I think the Cleo's cute. This is another line that's like, even though I wouldn't personally buy most of the dolls in the line, looking at it, I can still appreciate them. Like, even if I wouldn't want them in my collection, I still think they're really cool dolls. And I'm still really glad that they exist out there in the world. And I do just think this is a really exemplary example of design. I think these are amazing dolls, really beautiful, and again, very iconic. So definitely had to be somewhere on my list. For number 6, we are finally not talking about Gen 1 for a second. This is G3's Sculptment Secrets Iridescent Edition, which I feel like might be kind of a controversial take, but I really, really genuinely love this line. I think these are such amazing dolls. I know that they all have polypropylene hair, which is not chill, and like especially for people who like care about hair more than other aspects of dolls, obviously not a good thing. But just looking at it from a design point of view, I think these are so fun and so interesting. I think that I've mentioned this a few times. For me personally, Sculptment Secrets is kind of going downhill because it looks a lot more like they're going in the direction of everyone has very similar outfit pieces, just in different colors and patterns. This was before that, right? Like this is all of them have different types of outfit pieces with different patterns, different sculpts, just different everything. They all come with 2 outfits. There is the whole thing of like the lockers, which I know a lot of people don't like because they're big and they take up space and it's a lot of plastic. I totally get it. I'm really just looking at this from an aesthetic point of view, and I think these dolls are so fun, especially the Cleo. Oh my God, this Cleo is like a highlight to me. She's so beautiful. I actually do have 4 out of 5 of these dolls, which I feel like says a lot. It's very rare for me that I end up completing a line of dolls or even getting close to completing a line of dolls. Like I just tend to be someone who ends up buying like 1 or 2 out of a line, typically speaking. So the fact that I have 4 out of 5, I feel like really says a lot about how I personally feel about the dolls. I just think this was very unique, very interesting. I love the way that all of the characters were executed. And for me, I feel like there's like this whole God, I'm really getting into it now, huh? We already know that there's like a lot of like Gen 1 versus G3, like that situation. I personally don't think that Gen 1 was like as insanely good as a lot of people do. I'm not saying it wasn't incredible, but like they also had a lot of mediocre dolls. Like if we're being honest, they had a lot of mediocre dolls. They still use a lot of bright colors. Like all of the things that staunch G3 haters will use against the dolls aesthetically, I find personally to just be categorically untrue. And I feel like this line is a good example of that. Like Draculaura has a lot of black in her design. Frankie has a lot of black in their design. There are a lot of like not, I don't know if traditional is like the right word, but there are a lot of alternative elements in these designs. I think they're very fun, and I think they definitely hold up against some of the G1 counterparts. So I put them on the list, and we're going to have more G3 down the line. So like, prepare yourself. 5th place is going to go to Scarily Ever After, which absolutely killer line. I wish so hard we had gotten more of these dolls because there only ever were 3 produced. I believe they might have been Target exclusives in the US, but like it's been a while since they came out, so I don't remember for sure. But they're like Monster High characters who are kind of designed based on fairy tales. So we have Snow Bite for Draculaura, based obviously on Snow White. And then we have Threadarella for Frankie, who is based on Cinderella. And then Claudine is Little Red Riding Hood. It's all very, very cute. I have the Draculaura. I would love to get the Claudine someday. I think she's a beautiful Claudine. And even the Frankie. This is like one of my favorite G1 Frankies. And those of you who have been around for a while know I do not like G1 Frankie. So for me to say that, I feel like means something, much like the Ghoulia we discussed earlier. I just think the concept for this line, like the execution is beautiful. Don't get me wrong. I think these are gorgeous dolls, but the concept is what really sells me because it's just so interesting. Like, I think this is very out of the box. It's very creative thinking, and I love to see it. I think these are very widely beloved dolls by the fandom. Again, I'm so sad we didn't get to see more because I think this is such a fun concept that you could do so much with. And I really wish that they had. It would be so sick if they did one of these for like an SDCC doll, or even if they brought this back to G3 and did like a G3 version. Oh my, I would die. I would die. It'd be so incredible. But looking at what we have, absolutely amazing. There was no way they weren't going to be on this list. Fourth place is going to go to Gloom and Bloom, which I don't know if this is like an unpopular opinion because I feel like these dolls are loved, but I also feel like when I see other people talking about their favorite Monster High lines, this one doesn't necessarily come up as much, or maybe I'm just watching the wrong people. I don't know. But I think this is a really, really stunning line. I have the Cleo from this line. In a world where I have infinite money, I would also love to get the Katrine and the Genifire. I think they're really beautiful. The Venus and the Jane are like a little bit less so to me, but I still think they're really nice dolls. I think this is really fun theming. Like, all of it obviously has kind of a gardeny or a floral theme, and it's executed just so well. They all look so interesting and so like colorful and fun. I just am genuinely obsessed with it, especially, okay, listen, like I know I was defending G3 earlier and like I'm still going to throughout this video, don't worry. I will say that the latest round of Skulltimate Secrets is supposedly garden themed. It does not even look remotely garden themed when you compare it to this, which was also a garden theme. I just feel like this was an unbelievably well executed line with so many fun fashions and fabrics and just designs overall. And yeah, it's definitely a standout to me. That brings us to our top three, and breaking into the top three, we're starting off with the Monster Fest dolls. These are absolutely insane dolls. Like, they're so good. Minus the Draculaura, I'm sorry. Like, she comes with the playset, so, you know, naturally her doll is going to have less detail because more budget was put into the playset. So she's kind of a miss for me, and I personally don't love the Frankie, but like, I can still appreciate Frankie aesthetically, right? Like, I can still say, even though I don't love that, that's a cool design. I just think these dolls are genuinely incredible. Like, the amount of detail, the amount of pieces that you get, the amount of like painted detail, especially that comes on the accessories for these dolls, is absolutely bonkers. It's so beautiful, especially for, are they $30? It's been a second since I bought mine, so I've forgotten if they're 25 or 30. But I feel like they're a pretty standard playline price, and to get all of these intricate details, all of these beautiful fabrics and everything that are used is really impressive to me. And I feel like this is what I want to see from playline dolls. This is what I like, not expect because I don't expect it, but like, this is my ideal for playline dolls, is this level of quality. I just think they were absolutely stunning. Several of these dolls are like some of my favorite G3 dolls that have come out so far. And it makes me excited for what the brand is like going to continue to do. I don't know. I just, this is a really excellent line to me. And for me, lines like this really show that even though it is a slightly different aesthetic, and obviously like the characters have been changed a little bit, G3 can go just as hard as G1 did in terms of like the quality, and sometimes it can do better than some of the G1 lines. I just think this is super impressive, so they had to be on there. Second place is going to go to another G3 line, and that is the Core Refresh line. I debated so heavily about whether I should have Monster Fest or Core Refresh ranking higher. Honestly, it's a toss-up between the two. Like, the second and third spots really could be interchangeable, and honestly, even the number one spot, like all top three is like really, really neck and neck for me. I think the reason that I ended up picking Core Refresh to go higher than the Monster Fest line is because all of the dolls didn't come with a playset, so all of the dolls had all of the budget put into them themselves. And so I feel like it just shines a tad bit brighter for that reason. I'm sure in 6 months I'll change my mind. But like for now, this is kind of my thoughts. I have 3 out of these 5 dolls. I do think the other 2 are nice though. My only gripe with Frankie is that I don't like the pink for them. And then Claudine, I just kind of never ended up getting her, mostly because of the jacket. I'm not a huge fan of. But every single doll has some pieces, and even the majority of pieces that I really like. And then the dolls that I did buy and that I love dearly, I think are just so beyond standout. This Draculaura is so stinking cute with her sleeves, and then her little hat is amazing. The Laguna's pants, I'm never going to shut up about these pants. These are some of the most amazing pants I've seen on a doll in a very long time. I think they're absolutely incredible. And of course, Cleo, even just looking at like the image here, she almost seems like she's shining from within. Like she's so unbelievably stunning. I just think this entire lineup is really impressive. It really shows how not Gen 1, Gen 3 has grown so far. Like looking at the core dolls, which I also still loved, but then to the like core refresh dolls, absolutely incredible. The detail, the prints, the design, everything is amazing on these. So I really love them, but there is one line that like, again, it's really neck and neck, but it might just barely beat them out. And that line is Freak to Chic. I have such an ungodly love for Freak to Chic. I was so excited when it came out. I was actively collecting at that point in time. This was like shortly before I ended up taking a break from doll collecting. And I remember hearing that these dolls were coming out and just losing it. Like I was so I'm like getting emotional. Wow. Didn't expect that one. I was so excited about the announcement for these dolls. I love like circus theming or clown theming. It's always such a fun time for me. And so to combine that with Monster High was huge news for me. It was super exciting. The Freak to Chic playset that came with Rochelle is one of very few playsets that I have in my collection. If you have been following the channel for a while, you know that I don't tend to buy playsets just because space is limited and playsets take up a lot of space. So it's not been something that I have purchased a lot of in my time doll collecting. But I had to have this one because that's just like how amazing it was. I have the Calliope, who was the first like super tall doll that Monster High did, which was really novel and really exciting for me at the time. Like I loved that. I also have the Twyla and the Honey and the Toralei. I would like to get the Gina Fire at some point, like just to make it a little bit more complete. I don't really care for the Frankie, and I've talked about Claudine before on here. I'm not going to go in depth about it again because every single time I talk about it, one of y'all listen, I'm not trying to be like aggressive. I was starting to get really aggressive there. But every single time I talk about the Claudine and my feelings on her, someone decides that they want to fight me. I don't want to deal with it. So I don't like the Claudine, but every other doll I think is just, they're so amazing, and each one of them has a different act that they perform. So Twyla's on stilts, and Honey Swamp is kind of like a marionette, so her joints are all loose, but it's like intentional and it's super fun. Gina Fire blows fire or like breathes fire, blows fire. She breathes fire. Toralei is a tightrope walker. Claudine is a lion tamer. Rochelle, I think, is just supposed to be like a clown, and then Frankie is like a magician of sorts. It's so fun. It's so creative. It's so interesting. I wish more brands would do like circus themes like this because it is so cool. I feel like the possibilities are endless. Like there's so many creative things you can do with it. And I feel like Monster High knocked it out of the damn park with these. They're just so genuinely incredible. Especially the way they all tie together. I think this is a beautiful example of a very cohesive line for the most part. Like all of the dolls have patterns and prints that kind of go with their own character, or like colors that go with their own character, but there is also this striping that runs throughout where it's like this black and white striping for most of the dolls. Some of them get like a red and black instead, but there is this fabric that like unifies them and shows that they are a whole collection. It's part of why I wasn't a huge fan of the Freak to Chic Draculaura from SDCC and why I didn't include her in this, because I do think she was added like posthumously almost. And so to me, like I get it, and like I understand you can make the argument for it. To me, she doesn't count as like an official part of the line because she looks so different. And that was part of why I didn't like her, because I think Freak to Chic already has such an established and such an excellent aesthetic that to design a new doll to fit into it that doesn't have those same key points just didn't work for me. But the dolls that I have included here, like the other ones that like came out when the line came out as a whole, genuinely just so incredible. I mean, I'm sure you can hear my voice. I don't know if like I'm going to be on camera at this point in the editing, or if you're just going to be looking at an image of the dolls. So maybe you can see it in my face, but I'm sure you can hear it in my voice either way, how much I love this line and how incredible I think it was. Now that I'm talking about it, like hearing how excited I'm getting, I definitely feel a lot more confident about putting this one in the first place. Like the other ones are really, really good, but there's just something about this that scratches a particular itch and feels so unbelievably unique. Yeah, this is a great line. This was actually the first line that I thought of when I like started preparing for this video. I was like, okay, Freak the Chic has to be on the list. There's no way I could put it anywhere else. And now that I'm here and I'm filming, I feel really good about putting it number one. I think it was just an incredible, unique, amazing line. But yes, guys, that is going to be it for today. Those are my top 10 Monster High lines of all time. I do kind of feel bad that not a single G2 line made it on here. It's not that I like think there were no good G2 lines, but just compared to the other ones, I really couldn't justify it. I didn't feel like I could do that. But I think we talked about some really, really amazing dolls today. Obviously, I want to hear your input as well. Do you agree with my list, or do you think it should be rearranged, or like, did I forget your favorite line? Just please do let me know your thoughts. But yeah, that's going to be it for today, guys. I hope you're able to enjoy. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day or your night or whatever it might be, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.